They thought I buried my past, but what I found under my house proved otherwise. My name is Marcus Bell, and if you're reading this, you're either curious, skeptical, or in danger. I'm not sure which is worse. I grew up in a quiet Pennsylvania town where everyone knew everyone and secrets didn't last long. Or so we thought. I bought my childhood home 2 years ago after my mother passed. It felt right returning to the place where my memories, both joyful and haunting, were born. The house had changed little. The same creaky floors, the same smell of wood varnish and stale air. I started renovating it with the intent of selling it later for a good price, but deep down, I think I just wanted to feel close to something familiar. Something stable. That illusion shattered on a Thursday. I was tearing up the floorboards in the basement, replacing old insulation, when my crowbar hit something solid beneath the concrete. It made a hollow, almost metallic sound. I cleared away more debris and found a rusted hatch, small, circular, like one of those submarine doors, sealed shut with bolts that hadn't seen daylight in decades. There was no blueprint showing it. My father never mentioned anything like this, and he was the kind of man who labelled every wire in the fuse box. My curiosity roared to life, overpowering the slight dread creeping up my spine. I fetched tools, forced the bolts loose, and pried it open. The air that escaped was cold. Too cold for a sealed space in summer. A staircase spiraled downward into complete darkness. No lights. No sound. I should have called someone. A friend. The police. Anyone. Instead, I grabbed my flashlight and climbed down. The stairs felt endless. The temperature dropped with each step. My breath fogged in front of me by the time I reached the bottom. The room was circular, stone-walled, and smelled faintly metallic like blood and iron. At the centre stood a wooden table. On it, a sealed glass jar, and inside the jar something impossible. It looked like a human heart. Still beating. I didn't touch it. I didn't dare. But the longer I looked at it, the more I was certain it was alive. And not just functioning. It was aware. Every beat seemed to pulse with purpose, like it was calling out to something. Or someone. Suddenly, I heard a noise above. A sharp note from the hatch I'd left open. I turned the flashlight upward, expecting maybe an animal had wandered in. Instead, I saw a hand. Then, fingers too long, pressed against the hatch's edge, slowly pulling it closed. I ran. But I wasn't fast enough. The hatch slammed shut above me, plunging everything into suffocating darkness. And then the heart stopped beating. Everything went silent, except for a whisper in my ear. A voice I hadn't heard in 20 years. "Welcome back, Marcus." I froze. The voice was unmistakable, even after 2 decades. It belonged to my twin brother, Elijah. Only one problem. He died when we were 13. The memory hit me like a sledgehammer. The lake. The accident. The rescue divers never found his body, but the sheriff declared it a death by drowning. My mother mourned him every day. My father stopped speaking completely. And me? I've been carrying survivor's guilt ever since. But now, in this black pit beneath my house, I was hearing his voice again. I spun around with my flashlight, frantically sweeping the walls. "Elijah?" I called, my voice barely more than a dry whisper. "Is that you?" No answer. Only the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I turned back toward the glass jar, but it was gone. Gone. The table stood empty, as if it had never held anything at all. My brain screamed in protest. I saw it. I heard it. It was real. Then I noticed something new. A faint red line, like a thin trail of paint, snaking along the ground and disappearing into a shadowed alcove in the stone wall. I hesitated, then followed it. The alcove was narrow, leading into another corridor. Cold air licked at my skin as I moved forward, heart racing. The further I went, the more unnatural everything felt. The like space was folding in ways it shouldn't. The walls pulsed slightly, like they were breathing. At the end of the corridor was another door. This one wooden, with carved symbols I didn't recognize, jagged, almost ancient looking. My fingers brushed the handle. It was warm. Against all logic, I opened it. The room beyond wasn't made of stone, it looked like a child's bedroom. Familiar. Too familiar. Posters of old cartoons lined the walls. A broken toy robot sat on the shelf. A bunk bed, lower bunk untouched, upper bunk empty but made. And on the nightstand a photo. Of us. Me and Elijah. From the summer before he died. I stepped forward, picking up the frame. My hands trembled. The glass was cracked, as if it had been thrown against the wall and glued back together. And behind the photo something scratched into the wooden shaky lettering. "I never left." I staggered back. A sudden metallic bang echoed behind me. The door had shut. Locked. I was sealed inside my brother's old room, or a twisted replica of it buried under the house I thought I knew. And then came the sound again. That same heartbeat. Not from a jar this time. From the ceiling. I looked up and screamed. Dozens of hearts were embedded in the ceiling, pulsing, twitching, some too fast, some barely moving like they were stitched into the flesh of the house itself. Then, slowly, one by one, they started beating in sync. And I swear to God, they whispered a name. Not mine. Elijah. My legs buckled beneath me, and I crashed to the floor. My mind raced, struggling to process what was happening. I could feel the weight of the hearts above me, throbbing, vibrating in perfect harmony. Each beat was like a drum in my chest, sending shockwaves of panic through my body. I scrambled to my feet, my breath shallow, and tried to steady myself. I could hear now the sound of whispering voices, faint but growing louder. They weren't just calling Elijah's name anymore. They were calling mine. Marcus, Marcus. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block out the impossible voices, but they were coming from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the ceiling. It felt like the house itself was alive, breathing with me. I had to get out. I had to escape. But the door, it wouldn't budge. I turned back to the room, my eyes searching for anything that might explain this madness. There had to be something. Something that could make sense of all of this. My gaze fell on the nightstand again, where the photo of Elijah and me still sat. I grabbed it, desperate for any clue. And then, something caught my eye. The photo wasn't the only thing on the nightstand. A small, leather-bound journal lay next to it. It was old, its cover worn and cracked, but the pages inside seemed intact. I hesitated, feeling the weight of it. I had to know. I had to understand. I opened the journal. The handwriting was frantic, almost illegible in places, but as I turned the pages, the words became clear. He's back. They all come back. No one leaves, not even after death. I felt a chill crawl down my spine as I read. I turned the page again. It's not the house, it's the land. The land takes everything, and when you come back, you're never the same. The house remembers you, Marcus, and it knows your name. The next page was blank. My pulse hammered in my ears as I tried to digest what I'd just read. What did this mean? What was happening here? I could hear the whispering again, louder now, and it wasn't just Elijah's voice. It was the voices of others. Children, adults, people who had come and gone. The house had taken them all. I had to get out. I couldn't stay here, in this room, in this place where time and reality seemed to fold in on themselves. I ran to the window and yanked at the bars, but they wouldn't budge. The room was shrinking around me, the air growing heavier with each breath. The heartbeat above me quickened. Faster. Too fast. Like it was ready to explode. I backed away from the window, stumbling over the old carpet, my body shaking uncontrollably. My fingers brushed the edges of the photo again, and for a brief moment I thought I saw something move in the reflection. I looked closer, and then I saw it. A shadow, standing in the corner of the room. It was Elijah. He was standing there smiling, but his eyes were empty, hollow, and then he spoke. Did you really think you could escape me, Marcus? I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The walls closed in on me, the hearts above me thundering in my skull. Elijah's form started to distort, shifting into something far darker, far more sinister. The house was feeding on me. It was feeding on us all, and there was nowhere to hide. I turned and ran, but the shadow followed me. It always followed, and in the distance I could hear a voice, faint but clear, echoing through the house. It's too late, Marcus, you're just like us now. And in that moment, I knew I was never leaving. I ran blindly through the maze of hallways, my heart slamming against my ribs. Every step felt heavier, like the air itself was thickening, trying to pull me down into the bowels of this place. The walls twisted unnaturally, warping as if the house itself was mocking me, moving in response to my panic. I tried to push open doors, but they slammed shut before I could even touch the handles. I wasn't just running from Elijah anymore. No, something else was hunting me, something much older, something that lived within the house itself. I stumbled into what used to be the living room, but it wasn't the same. The furniture was overturned, the windows shattered, and the once warm fireplace was now just a blackened pit. The smell of decay hung in the air. And then I saw it. In the far corner, the basement stairs, the ones I had come from. The same ones that had once led me to that cursed room. But now they were different. The steps were covered in grime, and the stairs stretched down into an abyss of absolute darkness. I could feel the pull of it. The house was trying to drive me back. I had no choice. I had to confront whatever lay beneath. It was the only way to understand what was happening to end this nightmare. I couldn't breathe, but I couldn't stop either. The shadows seemed to stretch toward me like fingers reaching from the abyss. Every breath felt colder, like the very air was pulling the life from my body. But I couldn't stop moving. I reached the basement door. It creaked open, as though it had been waiting for me. I stepped inside, feeling the familiar chill wrap around me. The floor creaked beneath my feet as I descended. The last step was a leap of faith. I felt as though the world had disappeared, leaving me in a vast, silent chasm. When I reached the bottom, I felt a sense of weightlessness, as though the ground beneath me was no longer solid. The darkness pressed in, suffocating me, and I turned on my flashlight, but it barely cut through the blackness. I was drowning in it. And then I heard it. The sound of the heartbeat. Louder now, as if it was coming from every direction. I was not alone. My flashlight flickered, and for a split second I saw movement. A figure. Someone or something was standing at the far end of the room, just out of reach of the beam of light. It was tall, slender, and its silhouette was indistinct, like a person covered in shadows. Then it spoke. "Welcome home, Marcus," it whispered in a voice I didn't recognize. But it wasn't Elijah. No. This voice was darker, colder, full of something ancient and cruel. I froze, unable to move. The figure stepped forward, and with each step, the temperature dropped. I could feel the frost crawling up my spine, spreading through my limbs. "Did you think you could escape your fate?" The voice was low and growling, like a threat. "The house owns you. You were always meant to come back." I backed away, my heart hammering, but the figure continued to advance. The shadows around me seemed to pulse, alive, twisting and swirling. My breath was coming in shallow gasps as panic flooded my body. "Marcus," said the voice cooed, drawing out my name. "You are already one of us." I swung the flashlight toward it, desperate to stop it. But the light flickered out, plunging me into complete darkness. The heartbeat, now a cacophony, rattled my bones. It was everywhere. In the walls. In the floor. In me. Then, something cold and wet touched my face. It was like a hand, but wrong. I didn't want to look. I couldn't look. But I did. And what I saw made my stomach churn. A face. A familiar face, but not quite. Elijah's face, but his skin was twisted, his eyes black hollow. His lips pulled back in a grotesque smile, his teeth too sharp, too white in the dim light. "You never left, Marcus," he whispered again, his voice now an echo of the house itself. "And you never will." I tried to scream, but the sound was lost in the oppressive silence. The figure reached for me, its fingers stretching impossibly long, wrapping around my wrist, pulling me toward the center of the room. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The house had claimed me, and now I was part of it. I couldn't breathe. The figure that had taken Elijah's form, or what I thought was Elijah, dragged me deeper into the darkness, its grip unyielding, cold, and suffocating. The air was thick, as if the house itself had become a living, breathing thing. I felt the walls pressing in, tightening around me like a vice. The heartbeat reverberated in my chest, like it was sinking with my pulse, growing stronger with each passing second. "Let me go!" I gasped, my voice trembling. I struggled, trying to pull away from its icy grip, but it was futile. It was as though my body no longer belonged to me. "You cannot escape what's already inside you," the voice murmured, cold and distant. "You were chosen, Marcus. You always were." I tried to scream again, but no sound came out. Instead, a thick, oppressive silence filled the room. I was no longer sure if I was even standing on solid ground. It felt like the floor was shifting beneath my feet and the walls were twisting, expanding, as though the house itself was hungry. I could hear something in the distance, a low, guttural growl, like something ancient, something monstrous. The shadows around me seemed to writhe, as though they were alive, feeding off my fear, my desperation. It felt like the house itself was devouring me. Figure Elijah's twisted form pulled me closer to the center of the room. The shadows seemed to warp and stretch, swirling around me like a storm. I tried to fight, but the more I struggled, the more it felt like the house was tightening its grip on me, like it was swallowing me whole. "No, I won't stay here!" I yelled, summoning every ounce of strength I had left. I slammed my fist into the figure's chest, but my hand passed straight through it. The shadow flickered, and for a moment I could see nothing but the reflection of my own terrified eyes. And then I saw it. The harp. The one that had been beating in the glass jar in the other room. It was here now, suspended in the air before me. It was large, pulsating with unnatural rhythm, and surrounded by a dark mist. The mist swirled around the heart like a living thing, caressing it, feeding it. "That's what it wants," the voice whispered again, this time directly in my ear. "The heart that feeds on the living, and you are the next sacrifice." I reached out, driven by some primal urge, my fingers brushing against the beating heart. The moment my skin touched it, an overwhelming wave of pain shot through my body. It was like fire and ice mixed together, searing through my veins, burning every inch of me from the inside out. I collapsed to my knees, my chest heaving with agony. I could feel the house closing in on me, suffocating me, as though it was trying to consume every last ounce of my being. The shadows pressed in, pulling me deeper, and I realized with a sickening clarity that I was not in control anymore. The house had taken me. It had claimed me. "You are ours now," the voice crooned. "You are not just a part of the house, you are the house." I fought to stay conscious, my head spinning, my vision blurring. My body was being pulled apart, piece by piece, consumed by the darkness. I could feel the pulse of the heart growing stronger, its rhythm matching the beat of my own heart. And then a new voice broke through the chaos. It was faint at first, but then it grew louder, clear, until I realized who it was. "Elijah," I whispered, my voice trembling. But the voice that answered was not his. It was my own. "Come with us, Marcus, join us, become a part of the house." I felt my body convulsing, the darkness wrapping around me, suffocating me. The pulse of the heart was too much to bear, and I finally succumbed to the overwhelming force, my mind slipping away into the void. But as I faded into unconsciousness, one thought lingered. The house wasn't just alive. It was hungry. And it had only just begun. When I opened my eyes, I expected to be engulfed by the suffocating darkness again. But the first thing I saw was light. Faint pale light, filtering through a crack in the stone. My body ached, every inch of me bruised and broken, but somehow I was still here. Still alive. I was lying on the cold stone floor of what looked like an underground cavern, the walls of the house now transformed into something more ancient, more unsettling. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of decay hung in the atmosphere. But the most jarring thing of all, the silence. It was absolute. I pushed myself up, my head spinning. The darkness had receded, but it hadn't disappeared entirely. The walls still pulsed with the same eerie rhythm, like they were breathing in time, with the heartbeat I could still feel in the depths of my chest. And then I saw it. The heart. It was no longer in the jar, no longer suspended in mid-air. It was sitting before me, encased in a strange, crystal-lit cage, glowing faintly with a dim, otherworldly light. The heartbeat was louder now, more insistent, as if the very stone around it was vibrating in response. A voice, sharp and cold, cut through the silence. "You're awake." I whirled around, my body tensing, but I couldn't see anyone. Just shadows, and the unmistakable feeling that I was not alone, that they were still here, watching. "Who's there?" I demanded, my voice barely more than a hoarse whisper. Out of the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall, cloaked in darkness, its features barely discernible in the dim light. The figure stepped forward, and I could hear it laughing softly. The laugh was low, hollow, and familiar. "Did you think you could escape, Marcus?" the figure asked, its voice dripping with mockery. It stepped into the light. It was Elijah. But it wasn't Elijah. His skin was pale, greyish, his eyes empty pits of shadow. His mouth twisted into a grin that didn't belong on a human face. It was the same face I remembered, but distorted, grotesque, like a mask. He tilted his head, and I could feel the weight of his gaze bearing down on me, suffocating. You're dead," I stammered, stepping backward. "This isn't real. This can't be real." "Oh, it's real," Elijah's voice rasped, the words like daggers. "This is the house that doesn't let go, Marcus. Not of anyone, not of anything. Once you're here, you're a part of it." I shook my head, stumbling back as panic surged through me. The walls felt like they were closing in, and the shadows seemed to creep closer, moving with a life of their own. My heart pounded in my chest, faster than ever before, and the pulse of the heart in the center of the room seemed to sync with mine, matching my every beat. "No, I won't stay here," I shouted, my voice breaking. "I won't be like you." Elijah smiled, his eyes hollow and empty. "It's too late for that. You already are." I could feel the truth in his words. The cold, suffocating reality. This wasn't just some nightmare. It wasn't a hallucination. It was real. This place was alive, and it had claimed me. Suddenly, the room shifted, the walls groaning as though they were stretching, pulling apart. The heartbeat grew louder, more urgent. I could feel the vibrations in my very bones. The pulse wasn't just in the air, it was in me. The house was feeding off of me, consuming me from the inside out. "No," I whispered, feeling the weight of it all crashing down on me. "No, I won't be a part of this, not again." But it was no use. The house was hungry. And it wasn't just after my soul anymore. It was after my very existence. Every drop of my life force. Every piece of me. I heard Elijah's voice again. This time, it wasn't just his. The entire house seemed to echo it. "Welcome home, Marcus. You're not leaving. You were never meant to." I ran. The walls seemed to stretch and twist around me, but there was no escape. No way out. My footsteps echoed, louder than they should have been. I turned every corner, but the shadows always followed, closing in on me. The heartbeat. The whispers. The house itself seemed to mock me with every turn. I stopped gasping for breath, my heart pounding. And then I realized something. The floor beneath my feet wasn't solid. It was alive. A chill ran down my spine as I looked down and I saw the cracks in the stone. The floor was splitting open. From beneath, a new figure emerged. Taller than Elijah, its face obscured by shadows. The air around it crackled with energy, the pulse of the heart still growing stronger, louder. I didn't even need to hear it speak to know what it was. It was the house itself. It was coming for me, and there was nowhere to run. The figure before me was no longer just a shadow. It was something ancient, something older than the house itself. The air crackled around it, thick with energy, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. The heartbeat had become deafening now, vibrating through every inch of me. I could feel it, not just in my chest, but all around me. The walls. The floor. The very air. Everything was pulsing with the rhythm of it. It stepped forward, the shadows shifting around it like a cloak. The face remained hidden, but I could feel its eyes on me. watching, judging. You cannot run anymore, the voice rumbled, its tone deeper, more resonant than anything I had ever heard. It was the voice of the house. The voice of whatever force had been lurking beneath the surface, waiting for this moment. I never wanted this. I screamed, my voice cracking with desperation. I didn't ask for any of this. The figure tilted its head, its presence growing heavier with each passing second. You didn't ask, but you belonged to us all along. You always did, Marcus. This house, this land, it knows you, it has claimed you, and you've been a part of it from the very beginning. I felt my legs tremble beneath me, my breath shallow and erratic. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. The shadows had become my cage, closing in from every side. But then I heard it. Faint at first, like a distant whisper, almost drowned out by the overwhelming heartbeat. But it was there. A voice. Well, Elijah? I spun around, and there, in the corner of the room, was the figure again. The face of Elijah, twisted and broken, yet somehow still familiar. I'm here, Marcus, his voice rasped, low and twisted, a cruel mockery of the brother I had once known. I never laughed, you know that now. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, you're not Elijah, you're not him. But the figure took a step forward, its face peeling back, revealing not Elijah's face but something worse. The shadows that had been clinging to it, drawing it closer, seemed to tear away the mask, revealing a grotesque mockery of my brother's form. His eyes were wide and hollow, his skin sickly and decayed, and his smile, that smile was no longer the playful grin I remembered but something far darker. He should have joined me, Elijah's twisted form crooned, stepping closer until his breath was cold on my skin. Now you're just like me, like us, a part of the house. I recoiled, stumbling backward. The walls around me seemed to close in, the pulse of the heart growing faster, louder. The whispers returned to voices, millions of them, all speaking at once, telling me that it was too late. That I was lost. That I was part of the house now, part of the darkness that had consumed it. And then I realized something. It wasn't just the house that wanted me. It was the land itself. The house was merely a vessel, an extension of something far older, far more powerful. And I had always been a part of it. The blood that ran in my veins, the memories I had tried to bury, all of it had been tied to this place. To the land. To whatever dark force had brought this cursed house to life. The heartbeat was no longer just a sound. It was alive. It was in me, part of my very being, driving me toward the inevitable. There was only one choice left. The voice of the house, Elijah's twisted form, and the countless other voices all converged, whispering the same words. Join us, Marcus, become one with the house, become a part of the land. There's no escaping it now. I could feel the walls pressing in, the heartbeat pounding in my skull. My body trembled, and my breath came in ragged gasps. The darkness was swallowing me whole, and I knew that the only way to escape the house's hunger was to give in, to become a part of it. But even as I stood on the edge of the abyss, something inside me fought back. A part of me that had loved my family, the part that had remembered what it meant to be human, still struggled. I thought of my mother, my father, Elijah before he was taken. Could I really give in to this twisted place? Could I allow myself to be consumed by it, to join the endless cycle of death and rebirth that had claimed so many before me? I had been given a choice, and with every ounce of strength I had left, I made my decision. I turned toward the heart, the pulsating thing that had been calling me, the source of it all, the heart of the house. With one final, defiant scream, I threw myself into it. I felt it tear through me, felt my very soul being ripped apart as I was absorbed into the heart, into the very fabric of the house. The darkness engulfed me, and I became it. But even as I was consumed, I felt something stir inside me. A flicker of light. A moment of clarity. I wasn't alone. The others, the ones who had come before me, the ones trapped in the house, were with me. Their voices, their memories, their souls, all woven into the fabric of this cursed place. And for the first time, I understood. The house didn't want to consume us. It wanted us to remember. It wanted us to know that it had always been there. It was alive, and it would never let go. And now, neither would I.